All right. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. This webinar is focused specifically on understanding what the NHA exam is, how it works, and how you can work towards preparing for your test. To help us all to get started, we want to ask you a few questions. So what certifications are you studying? All right, so you're going to get a question that pops up right in front of you, right in front of the screen. So if you can just go ahead and answer that, just so we can see what type of students we have. All right, so CCMA is neck and neck with phlebotomy. We have some EKG, pharmacy techs, CMAA, billing and coding. All right. I'll wait a few more seconds before I end the poll. All right. I'm going to ask you one more question. All right. There we go. So, are you testing through an academic program, employer, or independently? So you should see one pop, you see the poll pop up. And if it's other, post it in the chat. Looks like the majority are through an academic program, but some through employers and some testing individually. That's great. All right, I do see an other. If you can put it on the chat so that way my team can grab that information. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll. Thank you so much for taking the time and answering these questions for me. All right, now all right, now that we got to know a little bit of who's here. So here at NHA, we are fully invested in the success of all of NHA's candidates. We are here to help ensure that no matter your background or needs, you feel confident and empowered to know your resources and no matter where you are in your journey to eventually earn your NHA national certification. We know that confidence is a huge part of the process. And so today's goals are to address some of the biggest questions we get around NHA exams and preparing to test. For some further information, NHA is the largest frontline healthcare worker certification company in the industry with over 1 million certified candidates. We provide certifications and learning resources for your entire journey. Of our 8 nationally accredited certifications, 5 fall within the practitioner side of frontline healthcare, including medical assistant, phlebotomist, pharmacy technician, EKG, and patient care technician. There are also 3 certifications in an administrative work, which include billing and coding, medical administrative assisting, and e-health records. In addition, NHA develops comprehensive learning tools around key learning objectives for the healthcare professions we serve, but we're really going to focus on just the resources and best practices for sitting for any of our 8 nationally accredited certification exams. So we get questions from candidates all the time, right? So what I want to ask you now, here's another poll. What are you most hoping to learn today? You should see that poll pop up. All right. Thank you so much again, everybody, for taking the time and answering the question that pops up on your screen. All right, looks like the majority want to learn the best way to study for my exam. That's the majority so far. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. So So these questions come from a recent candidate survey that revealed common themes around the biggest concerns or questions student felt related to their NHA exam. Just so you know, of the 6,000 candidates in a survey, the majority of them responded that test anxiety or a worry that they weren't ready was their biggest concern. Though all of these are big questions, which we'll review today, we know that this confidence or concern to pass can be addressed through preparation. This is one of the many reasons why it's best practice to get your NHA account as soon as possible. We will be sending you all kinds of information and additional options to help as you prepare. To help with those most common questions, today we'll look over what it means to have a certification, the exams and how they work, and resources to help you prepare. Though we know you could be at any point in your journey, today we're going to walk you through some of the key things to know about the NHA exam. So, wherever you are in your process, you'll have the important information to help you as you prepare for your goal of becoming NHA certified. Okay, let's jump in. So, the first thing is to really understand what it means to have an NHA certification. Let's start by explaining what certification is. Having a certification represents more than just completing a course or program. It proves that you've gone above and beyond to validate your knowledge, skills, and competencies in important core areas of your field. It gives employers that next level of confidence in you and what you can do. But why is it important to get certified? NHA works with employers across the country, and we know that they value candidates who have an industry certification. We see this in that candidates who have their certifications are more likely to get hired, often have a higher pay scale and job security, even a pathway for career advancement. Having your certification also tells employers that your skills are credible. It shows you have a set of abilities that have been proven, which will provide them with improved safety and standard of care. And with the growing trend for employees to take on more and more responsibilities, this provides a huge benefit to the employer. For example, even though job ads may be looking for an MA, when they go into screen applications, having credentials and a national certification will make you stand out, even if the certification requirement isn't posted on the job description. In fact, NHA's most recent survey of employers across the country, 83% of employers reported that they would hire a candidate who has a certification over one who doesn't. In the last few years, we have seen some other industry trends on hiring and candidate skills. And we know that on average, employers have a hard time locating qualified candidates, which is why having your certification can really make a difference based on what we've discussed so far. Recently, there has also been an increase in employers reporting that healthcare employees have more responsibilities, and on average, candidates lack required EHR skills. This is true for all roles, but the gap was especially large in some more than others. Getting your industry certification or even stacking that with additional certifications can provide employers confidence that you are equipped to do the job at hand. Having your certification doesn't just help you get your foot in the door, but can also help you earn more income. Of those interviewed, the majority of employers confirmed that they will increase pay when or if an employee earns that professional certification. This trend is increasing each year. That same survey showed that 93% of healthcare employers highly encourage or require that their staff earn or have industry certifications. Also, 81% of HR teams use whether you have a certification in a screening process prior to hire, Showing you've earned that industry credential will put you into the right pile to get that first interview. When looking to get your national certification, it's always important to take note if it's an accredited one. But what does that even mean? Having an accredited certification, like those with NHA, means that you're being tested on what has been evaluated at an industry level. You're not being tested just on what we think you should know, but what the industry says you need to know. The NHA certification exams are accredited through the Institute of Credentialing Excellence with the National Commissions for Certifying Agencies, or NCCA. This means that the certifications themselves are nationally recognized and accredited. In addition, NHA is recognized by the largest program accreditations, which confirm academic programs, and is also a sponsoring organization of MAERB, which means we help to establish what those industry standards should be. All this to say is that you can feel confident in your decision. To partner with NHA and earn your industry certification, a quick search on any certification company's website, like NHA's, should bring up the ability to see their accreditation status. Always do your research beforehand to make sure that the certification you are earning really stands for something in the industry. Some other information to know is that NHA is the largest frontline healthcare worker certification organization in the industry. And we currently have over 1 million certified candidates. We are leading the industry in the resources we can provide to help as you study. All right, step 2. The next thing to be sure of is to understand the NHA exam. One of those big questions we were looking at earlier was about understanding if you're eligible to take one of NHA's accredited certification exams. If you're not sure, NHA's website has a short quiz you can take that will ask you just a few questions to make sure you have the minimum requirements to take any of NHA's 8 accredited exams. You can also read more about it in the NHA Candidate Handbook to make sure all your questions are answered. For those of you who said you were working on your certification through an academic program, the good news is that you should be meeting everything you need to test. And if you have more questions, review the candidate handbook. That will outline for that NHA has more than one option to gain eligibility to test. And they are either successfully completing an accredited or state recognized training program within the last 5 years, which can include active military experience, or through recent work experience. This pathway requires a full year of consistent work in the role within the last 3 years. The next thing to review is understanding the test plan. This is the blueprint or outline of the exam itself. The test plan provides an overview of topics and concepts, what we call domains or competencies, as well as the number of test questions on the exam related to those topics. The test plan is created after a long nationwide analysis of the role, including what's expected of you and where the industry is trending to require of you. All of NHA's test plans are available on our website and are not only the foundation for the available online study materials, but also the detailed list of what to expect on the test. Links to the test plan are available to download for any of our 8 nationally accredited exams. To find your test plan, locate the certification you're studying for on NHA's main website, and if you scroll down, you'll be able to download the test plan for free. But how does the exam test plan work exactly? All right, so first, I was curious to see if any of you knew how the NHA exams are scored. All right, let me just pull up that question. Sorry about that. It's not on here. We're going to go ahead and skip that question. So the NHA exams are scored through a very special process. This is a complicated question that many can struggle with. So don't worry if it's a little confusing. So basically, the scoring includes several steps to ensure that all candidates are scored fairly, no matter what test or test version they are taking. Which is why the test plan is important, because it shows you all the possible items that you may be tested on. Everyone who tests will follow the same blueprint for that exam type. The scored items outline a series of skills that will be on the test itself. You should also know that there will be questions on the exam that we don't score, and you won't know which ones those are. So be sure to answer all questions to the best of your ability. A blank answer is a wrong answer. Every candidate who takes this test will follow the test plan, but not everyone may have the same questions. As I mentioned, our goal is to score each test fairly across a range of possible questions. So at the beginning, each question is reviewed through a series of things, which include how hard the question is, how often in your job you may be asked to do this thing, or even know how important it is to get it right the first time. These are just some of the layers that are used to set the score. This weighing is put into a value, and each test version has the same possible maximum score, which is 500 points. So that means 500 is a perfect score. Every tester, every test version has the potential of getting 500 points. The minimum passing score that you need to earn your certification, based on those values I mentioned, is 390 or higher. So even if you miss by 1 point, getting a 389, for example, that doesn't necessarily mean you missed just one question, but that you didn't quite make the minimum required score after all your questions were reviewed. So remember that poll I did earlier? The most correct answer was that the exam has a minimum required score, what we call a cut score, to make sure that no matter what, you are being scored fairly to evaluate your abilities in the role. In the case that we need to update an exam test plan, like we're going to do later this year for the administrative assistant certification, let's get to the part where we do that study. We'll review the tools available to you and some best practices for putting that work in before taking your next attempt. We know that across the country, candidates who use the NHA exam preparation materials and follow best practices when studying have a much higher possibility of passing the exam. On that, I'm curious, how many of you have or will have access to NHA exam study materials? There we go. All right, so that question should pop up. All right, take a few more seconds before I end the poll. Again, thank you so much for taking the time. So it looks like the majority have already purchased or it's been provided by your institution. All right, just a few more seconds. I see somebody that put other. Please go ahead and put the other in the chat. All right, we're going to go ahead and end the poll. So a recent survey of over 6,000 NHA certification holders expressed that on average, they wish they had studied with NHA's materials earlier and more frequently than they did prior to testing for their certification. So let's review what those resources are. NHA's prep materials are based on those test plans we were talking about. The full prep package includes an online study guide, a series of practice tests, personalized reporting tools, and a unique study tool called the Focused Review. We're going to talk through how using these tools can help you before your NHA exam. Many programs provide these through the tuition cost or from your employer, but not all. So whether you choose to purchase these yourself or if it was already provided to you, once you have them, you can access them through the My Courses or My Materials links on your NHA account. To follow NHA's best practices, we suggest you start in the NHA study materials through the study guide. This suggestion is the same for all except the billing and coding exam materials, which have a baseline practice test that you should use first. Depending on your program and resources, you may be directed to begin with a baseline assessment, or you can begin with your study guide first, working all the way through each lesson before taking the end of module quiz. The online study guide has a lot of amazing features, so let's walk through some of them. Each exam package is unique and may look slightly different, but all of them will have a similar format. And it's broken down into main categories or sections, each one aligned to a core content area from your exam. These chapters will take you through how NHA will talk to this material and test you on it. You can have access to activities and games, checkpoints and assessment tools, and use these to apply what you're learning and see how well you're retaining the information, not over and over until you get a good score. There are also tools like glossaries of key terms, flashcards, and even a series of professionalism videos. Though these won't be on the NHA exam, but they can help for you to prepare for interviews and job placement. For those of you in the CCMA or CMAA newer materials, your view is a little different, but it's all still there. To access your menu, you'll need to open your menu icon. This is where you can access all of your items, including the glossary and additional resources. If you have access to the online materials, you can also easily download NHA's flashcard app for Android or Apple, and there are how-tos on the NHA website that walk you through how to do that depending on your device. Once you've worked through the lesson, then you should take the quiz tied to that chapter to see how much you remember. These are designed to look and feel just like your online exam, as well as practice tests, but are focused on just this one core competency, so you can see how ready you are to move on. We don't just tell you a practice question is wrong or right. We provide the content information you needed to know to understand why, and we do this for every quiz in the study guide. We don't recommend you take these quizzes over and over again, but instead to take them and use the information to study more before moving into the next module. Once you've gone all the way through your study guide, it's time to test your certification exam readiness by taking your NHA practice assessment. If you already completed your baseline, no worries. Start with your next available test. Those practice tests you have access to are designed to look and feel exactly like the exam itself, though they aren't weighted like the certification exam is. You are taken through several different test versions with a total of 6 test attempts. Now, just because you get a bunch of tries doesn't mean you should take them all right away to memorize questions. These are designed to help you prepare and study for your exam. Each of your 6 attempts are just like taking the full certification exam, but don't expect that these exact questions will be on your certification test. They are designed to follow the full test plan outline for all scored questions and provide feedback, reporting, and additional tools to help you study. These will not give you an ABC style grade. The scores you receive on your practice test are not scored the same way that your actual certification exam will. So use this information to define what you haven't mastered yet and still need to review. Your instructor may turn on or off the instant feedback rationales to help as you prepare. We also suggest you try for at least one practice test to be in a real exam feel with these rationales off and even timed to make sure you're all set for test day. It's not important that you take all 6 assessments, but that you study in between. Though you get 6 total attempts, we really see that students who use at least the first 4 have a higher possibility of passing their certification exam. Okay, so let's talk through this study process using the visual timeline, which is to obtain the NHA exam prep materials if you haven't already. If you're getting these through your program, check with them as to know how early you can access these resources. Work through the online study guide and quizzes using this material strategically. Download the NHA app to help. If you are finding a competency particularly challenging, refer to any program resources you may have had. Or if you're currently working, ask for assistance on this content in on-the-job training to help solidify your learning. When you're ready, take the first practice test as close to a real exam environment as possible. Even time yourself to see how you do. Along with your practice test, and to help with your studying before your next practice assessment attempt is something called the focused review. Using this and your reporting tools is tip number 4. The focus review is a different study tool that comes along with each practice test, along with your personalized reports to help you focus your studying in between each attempt. This ensures that you take the time you need to continue to work on those areas that you struggle in before taking your next practice assessment. After each practice test attempt or quiz, your personalized score will load and you'll see how you scored in each main area. You won't be told exactly what questions you missed, but instead what competencies to work on. This is to be sure you go back and study on areas that need work rather than just memorize questions or continue working on areas you're already confident in. And from here, you can immediately launch your review. The focus review helps you study what you need to still learn, not what you've already are comfortable with. We recommend you spend time in this review as well as in your course curriculum before taking your next practice test. As I mentioned, this is a different study tool specific to just that one practice test attempt to help you focus further on those areas that you may be struggling in. This helps to make sure that you're doing more study. Don't shy away from reviewing your mistakes. The best way to improve your score is by challenging yourself to learn the information you haven't mastered yet. This is filterable and also printable. So you can go back and highlight certain areas or spend time in the competencies that you know you need to work on the most. It isn't interactive like your study guide, but it can make the difference in helping you through this final piece of your study timeline. Along with your score reports, you also get additional reporting that starts the moment you open your first module, quiz, or practice test. This is detailed reporting of what you've done, how you're doing, and help to guide you to what's next. To view your reporting for your study guide, you'll see that in your lessons, you can select to expand your information and you'll see several things, including NHA suggested time and study. your most recent access date, as well as quiz and exam scores. The best way to see all that you've accomplished so far is in your progress report. Your progress report will bring you to this overview of all of your access to any materials included in your course. This will show your week at a glance, what you've done and for how long, your study guide overall usage, as well as your trends in studying over the last weeks, and any practice test information. Scrolling down, you can view your modules, assessments, and suggested review categories in more detail. All this studying and hard work takes time. Knowing what to do and when to do it is an important piece of making sure your exam day is successful. Surprises are great when it's your birthday, but not when you're taking an exam. All right, I'm going to ask another question. Okay, it's not on here, so I'll go ahead and skip that one too. Apologize. When we are talking about studying, some of this planning ahead means preparing over a period of time, not just the week before. Real learning takes dedication. It helps to start by establishing study goals and sticking to them. Set certain times each day that you take a bite out of the study. No one expects you do this overnight. Studying on your own is essential, but it can also be really helpful to have a study group or partner. You remember things differently when you work through it together, and it can help. Group study helps for you to teach concepts you are comfortable with to others and vice versa, or provides a new way of looking at a concept and helping it stick through shared experience. So have a friend or buddy to help you as you work through your preparation. If you don't have anyone to help, let NHA be your partner. Download NHA's brand new mobile app, which is now here to assist with any of your flashcards for an easier digital experience. All right, now let's talk further about being ready on exam day and making sure everything is set up. Assemble everything you need the night before your exam. Your ID, pencil, watch. Set your alarm to be sure and arrive early. You will feel better knowing you're ready to go. For billing and coding candidates, you are the only one allowed to bring anything other than pencils to the testing space. You're also required to bring your coding manuals. These must be in the current year manual, and that date should update June 1st of that year. These can have handwritten notes and tabs, but no inserts are allowed. This information is also on your website in the CBCS main page. Don't cram the day before the exam. Last minute study sessions tend to increase test taking anxiety, which doesn't help with your ability to take the test. This may sound silly, but getting a good night's sleep and eating a healthy meal can really help with your body to feel prepared. So does staying positive and making sure the things you are saying to yourself are kind. Scientifically, you remember bad things easier than the good. So fill your mind with the thought that you can pass this exam. No matter how or where you're testing, be early. Testing at your campus or clinic, that still means you should show up early and be prepared. Know the room you're testing in and when the exam starts. If you're testing at a PSI testing center, know where you are going and allow extra time for traffic, parking, and getting into the center. If you are testing via live remote proctoring through PSI, ensure your computer is compatible and your test space is ready. We have lots of resources to help you with this, no matter what your testing method. Specifically for remote exams, we have tons of additional tools to help with your exam success. Much of being prepared is looking these over in advance, including doing any technology checks on any computer and revisiting your exam test plan to be sure you are ready. During your exam, don't get discouraged if you don't know an answer, but don't skip it. There will be a few questions that NHA won't score, and you won't know which those are. So, if you're unsure, rule out the wrong answers first and use your knowledge to answer to the best of your ability. Then bookmark it to review at the end if there's time. It is a timed test, so it's important to get all the way through. However, be sure to only use the back and forward buttons in the exam format, not your browser, to make sure you don't get kicked out. Read each question thoroughly. Watch out for those where it says, which of these is not, for example, or the all of the above answer choices. If you can clearly eliminate one answer choice, then you also know the all of the above answer choice is wrong. There's always one correct answer, so read all of the answers before picking yours. Even if it looks like there's more than one correct answer, only one is the most correct answer. So with all of these resources available, how do we make sure your exam day is a great one? Well, let's revisit the timeline now that we've gone all the way through. If you can, or if your program already provided it, get access to those NHA study materials as soon as possible. Remember, over 6,000 certification holders confirmed they wish they'd had their materials sooner so they can study better prior to testing. On that, following good study habits is an important part of this process. With the NHA materials, we do recommend you go through the study guide first, using it to help you see what NHA is going to test you on. Then, when the time is right, start taking those practice tests. These follow the full exam test plan. So use them to see how'd you do on the exam itself. Don't just take them to memorize questions. That's where the focus review comes in. Use it and your program materials to study in between each of those practice tests. Be sure to schedule your exam with enough time in advance to be sure you get on that exam roster. The day before the test, be sure you know your login email and password. You can't reset your password during the exam, and you're going to be in a different computer than you've been studying on. So it won't have your saved passwords. You don't want to get stuck in the testing center without being able to log in. And remember to show up early on exam day and plan ahead for traffic and parking. Then you can finally take the NHA nationally accredited exam and earn that industry certification to become NHA certified. So it's important to know not only how we'll test you, but what your score report will look like. To find your score, you'll want to go into your account and select the exam results link. This would only be here after you've taken any of NHA's exams. So if you haven't yet tested, you won't see this yet. Only those who have already taken an NHA exam will have this link. Depending on your testing method, you may see a variety of fields. This is an example of several possible outcomes you'll see. No matter if you passed an exam or not, you'll receive a score report to show you how you tested in each core area. Selecting your report will open for you a PDF document. So the most correct answer was that the exam has a minimal required score, what we call a cut or scaled score, to make sure that no matter what, you are being scored fairly to evaluate your abilities in the role. Here's an example of a non-passing EKG exam report showing how I did across the test plan, which we discussed earlier. I can also see how I did above, below, or near the passing standard. It's important that you understand that near passing standard doesn't mean at passing standard. The candidate handbook will talk more about this, but each of these fields are a range of scores. So falling near passing standard could mean that your score is at or a little below passing requirements, or at a little above what is required to pass that category. An example of this is if you think about watching a child eat an ice cream cone. The goal is to get it all in the mouth. Well, anyone who's ever been there knows that some may fall near the goal, but not all will make it. That's kind of what near passing standard is like. So when you review your score, you could be anywhere on the spectrum in any given category, and you want to see more of them near or above passing standard. Here's an example of a phlebotomy exam report. Anything that is near or below passing standard will be where I struggled more on the exam. And anywhere above passing standard means that I scored higher in those areas. Though again, I can be anywhere on that spectrum. So if in this scenario I didn't pass the exam, then what? Reviewing the detailed test plan, I need to be honest with myself on how comfortable I really am in each area and use my exam report to help guide my next steps for review and the option to possibly try for a second attempt. Let's talk a little bit about what could happen if you don't pass on your first try. Here is a visual aid to talk about how exam attempts work. From your eligibility to test, you can then apply for and schedule your first NHA exam attempt. If you don't make the minimum score to pass, then you can apply for another attempt, but you can't take that exam for at least 30 days. This is to give you time to review and prepare further. So what happens if you don't pass the exam a second time? Well, then it's another minimum 30-day wait period, and you would need to apply for that exam again. Each new attempt is just like the first, and unless you're in an academic program that will pay for the cost of a retake, that may mean a new exam fee each time. This is why good study habits, which we're going to talk about later, are so important. Now, following this same pathway, if that third attempt is non-passing as well, this is when things change. From that point, you will be required to wait a full year before you can try the exam for a fourth time. And from there, it's another full year before you can take any further attempts. So there isn't a limit to how many attempts you can take as long as you're eligible to test. But we don't want you to keep taking and paying for unsuccessful tests. We want you to instead take the time you need to really prepare using any tool available to you in this process. If your first attempt isn't successful, then we can work on doing everything possible to make this second attempt better. And it is completely possible. In fact, we know that not everyone who doesn't pass the exam in their first attempt will retake it. Those who choose to retest, who also use NHA study materials and work to follow best practices in studying, like we've discussed, have a much higher possibility of passing the exam on that second attempt and earning their nationally accredited certification. But we also know that those who use those materials before their first attempt have a higher likelihood of passing the exam without needing a retake. Once you pass your exam, you can keep going. There are always options to further your career path and stack those certifications with other industry credentials. You may already be eligible for the eHealth record certifications based on your program. Visit NHA's job board where employers across the country post jobs looking for certified candidates. Watch the blog space where we post interview prep tools, job search tips, and resume writing suggestions. We even host podcasts you can listen to. Beyond that, it's important to remember that your certifications don't last forever. You will need to keep those updated by completing continuing education credits. And you can do this through your NHA portal or upload completed coursework from an employer or program. So do you remember those additional skills developers? Earning some of those can count as credit towards your renewal. Finally, once you've earned your cert, go online and post the hashtag NHA certified to any social media platform. Tell us your story. We really do read these and love hearing from you. We highly recommend that you create a LinkedIn profile and be sure to add those credentials. Employers will Google you, so make sure they see that you have your certification. You can also put them after your name in your email signature or resume. Make it clear that you are certified. Be sure to talk to your career service team through your school for more help. And don't forget to save as a favorite or bookmark the NHA website. Here's an example of one of our candidate testimonials. We love hearing from you. It's not a joke that working in healthcare is hard, but also incredibly rewarding. We are so proud of all of you for taking your first steps on this road. Please know you won't just be changing your life, but the lives of those around you. They see the hard work and dedication you are putting into this, and it will make a difference. We have lots of these inspiring testimonials out on our YouTube channel, and we can't wait to hear yours once you've earned your certification. In just a moment, we'll get to some Q&A, but before we do, for those of you who may need to go, please take a moment to complete the survey link that will be posted in the chat box. For those of you who stuck through with us, remember I promised to post that survey link. Well, it's going to be posted right now, and it should be in the chat box here in just a moment. And if you fill that out, you'll be put into a raffle for a $50 gift card. Remember also that today has been recording. Anyone who registered for the session will get an email following up today's webinar with the recording and some additional resources to get you started. There's the link. Thank you, Lauren. So everybody should be able to see the survey link. So if you can please click that, complete it, and be put into that raffle for the $50 gift card. All right, now let's go ahead and open it up for some questions. Do we have any questions that we would like to address?
Hi, Diego. This is Mary. There was a question that came in earlier. Are the tests all multiple choice or are there any open-ended questions?
Great question. Yeah, so all of our exams will be in that multiple choice format. Any other questions, Mary?
And not that haven't been answered, but we did have an instance where someone had purchased prep material, a printed study guide, and online practice tests. Just know that if you are purchasing a printed study guide, you will not have access to the flashcard app. But
Great
that's it.
call out. All right.
I
Well,
don't have any other questions.
all right, everybody. Well, again, everybody, thank you so much for joining today's call. Again, this webinar was recorded, and we will be sending out this recording. And everybody, good luck with your exam, and have a good day.